The story begins with a firefighter who gets bitten by a rattlesnake. He is sweating from the pain, but he still refuses the morphine the doctor offers him. He is not trying to act tough. It is because he used to be an addict. For Brendan McDonough, if that needle goes in, it could mean that everything he has changed up to this point might be wiped away. A few months earlier, Brendan was still just a directionless addict. That day, he was so high at home that he could barely think straight when a friend told him his ex-girlfriend Natalie was pregnant. Brendan rushed to the bar where Natalie worked, confirmed that the baby was his, and said he wanted to take responsibility, but Natalie did not believe him at all. She did not want an addict anywhere near her child. After being turned away, Brendan went right back to wasting his life. He had no money, no job, and after stealing something, he got arrested by the police. After his mother bailed him out, she shoved an envelope into his hands and told him to move out. Not long after that, his daughter Michaela was born. Brendan only got to look at the baby one extra time through the incubator window, but that was the first moment he truly decided he wanted to drag himself out of the mud. So he forced his body, already wrecked by drugs, to go apply for the Wildland firefighting crew. The man in charge of that crew was Eric Marsh. The moment the team heard Brendan was the one showing up, no one welcomed him, especially Mac, who did not believe a guy like that could survive training. Eric did not take him in right away either. Instead, he asked Brendan directly when the last time was that he had used drugs. Brendan answered honestly and said it had been 3 months. Eric was already very hesitant, but when he asked Brendan why he insisted on joining, Brendan said he had done a lot of embarrassing things in his life and made a lot of mistakes, but now that he had a daughter, he wanted to give her something he himself had never had. That one sentence was what made Eric decide to give him a chance. But a chance was only a chance. Whether he could hold on or not was entirely up to Brendan. On the very first day of training, his conditioning was so bad that he was almost dead last. Forget keeping up with the team, he could barely make it up the mountain at all. The other firefighters all felt that Eric should never have let a man like that join, because the crew was at a critical point in trying to earn certification as a hotshot crew, and they had no room to carry someone who would only slow them down. But Eric said nothing and just kept training the whole team. When they reached the top, he told everyone to remember the view in front of them, because one day they might have to face a wildfire head-on in a place just like this. By the time everyone else had already come back down, Brendan was still way behind, gritting his teeth and pushing on. A long time later, he finally stumbled into view at the end of the trail and even held up his phone to prove that he had really made it to the top. That was the first moment he earned even a little respect from the others. From then on, Brendan began training like crazy. Whenever he went back into town, he stopped spending money on drugs and instead bought food and diapers, quietly leaving them at Natalie's door before turning around and walking away. During one training session, because Brendan could not answer a question about firefighting rules, the entire crew was punished with push-ups. Mac took the chance to joke that maybe Michaela was not even Brendan's kid. Brendan got so mad he nearly swung at him, but in the end he forced himself to swallow it and kept doing push-ups. Eric saw the whole thing and for the first time, stepped in for Brendan. He told everyone that training was one thing, but family was off limits. That was how Brendan kept hanging on, one step at a time. Late at night, he would sometimes stand outside Natalie's house and listen to his daughter crying inside. Just being able to hear her for a little while from outside was already enough for him. On the other side, Eric had his own problems too. The crew he led was clearly capable, but they were still only considered a second-rate fire crew. Their pay was nowhere near what a real hotshot crew made, and even their opinions were often not taken seriously. Eric had always wanted to turn the crew into the true Granite Mountain hotshots, but the certification kept getting delayed. The problem was never that they failed the standard. It was that the people above them kept refusing to approve it. His friend Dwayne Steinbrink kept telling him to tone down his temper and work the right connections. For the sake of the crew's future, Eric had no choice but to lower himself and ask for help. Finally, the chance came. A wildfire broke out, and Eric's crew was given a real opportunity to be evaluated. Everyone was thrilled, because if they performed well this time, they might finally get the certification they had been dreaming about. After arriving at the fire, they finished building the fire line ahead of schedule and made a good impression on the evaluator. But after that, Eric proposed lighting a backfire so the fuel would burn off first, leaving nothing for the main fire to consume when it came through. The evaluator did not agree at all. He thought that would only make the fire bigger. The two of them argued on the spot, and Eric nearly destroyed the opportunity he had worked so hard to get. But later that night, the facts proved he had been right. The backfire successfully stopped the main fire from spreading. On the way back, a tree suddenly came crashing down, and Brendan rushed forward and pulled a teammate out of the way, saving a life. By that point, even the crew members who had looked down on him the most had finally accepted him for real. Not long after that, Eric got the news. They had passed the evaluation. The whole crew was officially upgraded and became the Granite Mountain Hotshots. Everyone was overjoyed, and Eric even gave the crew a brand new name. That night, Brendan went to Natalie's house as usual to drop things off. But this time, Natalie finally opened the door and even brought Michaela out for him to see. Brendan was covered in soot and sweat, but for the first time, he truly got to hold his daughter. And Natalie finally realized that he really had changed. After that, Brendan kept fighting fires with the crew while slowly repairing the relationship between himself, Natalie, and Michaela. When Michaela got a fever, Brendan and Mac, two grown men, panicked and ran around the house helplessly until a teammate's family stepped in to help take care of her. Brendan's life had finally started to look like that of a real father and a real firefighter. But on Eric's side, the problems in his marriage were becoming more and more obvious. His wife Amanda wanted a child, but Eric always refused. His whole life revolved around work, as if wildfire had him tied down. Amanda grew more and more unhappy, because she felt that in this marriage she was always getting only whatever little part of him was left over. Later, on the way back from one mission, Brendan got bitten by a rattlesnake. After being taken to the hospital, the doctor wanted to give him morphine for the pain, but Brendan refused. Eric stood there and watched the whole thing. He knew exactly what that kind of refusal meant for someone who truly wanted to leave his old life behind. That was when Eric's view of Brendan changed completely. After Brendan got out of the hospital, he found Eric and seriously asked him to help recommend him for a position with the city fire department. That way, he could spend more time with Michaela and stay closer to Natalie. But the moment Eric heard that, he got angry and refused him directly. In Eric's eyes, this job was the thing that had pulled Brendan out of the mud, and if he quit now, he might go right back to the life he had escaped. Amanda saw all of this clearly. When she got home, she asked Eric directly whether he was really yelling at Brendan or at the part of himself that refused to face his own family. She put it plainly. Brendan had at least made a choice. But Eric, even though he kept saying he loved her, stayed shut inside his own glass box and only seemed fully alive when he was facing a fire. The two of them parted on bad terms once again. Eric went out drinking with Dwayne and talking until nearly morning before finally going home. After that night, he finally made up his mind and decided that this would be his last fire season. After it was over, he would hand the crew over to Jesse Steed and return to his family. But just then an even bigger fire came. The Yarnell Hill Fire. Faced with this rapidly growing wildfire, the Granite Mountain Hotshots were deployed again. Before they left, Eric pulled Jesse aside and told him this would be his final season, and that after it was over, the crew would be his. After that, the team entered the fire area and started building fire lines according to plan. But just after they lit their backfire, a passing air tanker accidentally dropped retardant on their fire line and put it out. With no other option, the crew had to relocate to the ridge and build a new line there. Because Brendan had not fully recovered from the snake bite yet, Eric assigned him to a distant lookout point and had another fire crew drop him off there on the way. As Brendan drove away, he laughed and joked with the others like usual. No one imagined that would be the last time they would joke with each other like that. After he reached the lookout, everything seemed normal at first. Far away, his teammates were still rebuilding the fire line. But mountain weather can change in an instant, and the wind suddenly shifted. The fire began accelerating wildly. Very quickly, the fire front came rushing straight at Brendan. He did not even have time to evacuate before he was surrounded by flames. Luckily, the firefighter who had dropped him off took the risk of coming back and pulled him back out of the fire. Brendan had barely escaped when he immediately started worrying about the crew still on the ridge. Their situation was even worse. The fire spread far faster than anyone had predicted, and the smoke swallowed the entire mountainside in an instant. Eric rushed out to scout for an escape route, only to find that the one they had planned to use was already cut off by the flames. He immediately ran back and ordered everyone to find an open patch of ground and prepare to deploy their fire shelters. Every man there knew exactly what that meant. They had no way out anymore. Eric kept calling for help while leading the crew in quickly clearing out a small area. The fire kept getting closer. Aircraft roared overhead, but they never spotted the team's real location. When even that final hope was gone, Eric could only report over the radio that he and his crew were about to deploy their shelters. The firefighters moved fast, just like they had practiced 100 times before, and they even left the relatively safest center spot for the newest guy. Eric even told Jesse to get into the middle too because he wanted the team to at least have one man left who could lead. But by then it was already too late. The firestorm came down on them. Meanwhile, Brendan kept calling from the lookout, but all he could hear back was broken, chaotic radio noise. When the fire was finally over and the search crews reached the site, all they found were scattered tools, radios, and fire shelters. Out of the 20 men of the Granite Mountain Hotshots, 19 were gone.